wanted to ask you, Brian, about what makes account-based sales and that process, and especially the metrics in that process, um, different from sort of traditional inbound sales or other types of traditional sales. And I know we talked a little bit about sort of you guys working with outreach. Um, and I would love to get a sense of, what was your experience with them and how did they sort of think about account-based, and I guess broadly, what makes account-based different?
Yeah, well, I love the guys at Outreach, and I think they're a phenomenal company who puts out great content. They're very smart about how they've thought about attacking their go-to-market and driving business. And you know, um, as most companies, I think, get into this stage of rapid growth, or they find a sweet spot. Um, you know, reps reps feel that. Like, reps are very attuned to what's working, and sometimes that can pull the focus away from what you want. I think I don't want to specifically speak on the accounts they were focused on, but every sales organization, the sales leader has looked at the data or looked at the market and said, here are accounts that we should go win based on our existing relationships, based on the type of companies that are perfect for our solution. Everyone has that target list. And I think,
Mhm.
great companies, they go look and they say, let's go win these logos. And here's our plan. And so it's really important to, and these guys at Outreach did a great job of not just saying, let's go win the easy business. Let's go win, what's coming in the front door, what's hitting the website, but here's the folks that we're going to go put on the board. And I expect people to work against those accounts. It's not going to be easy. We're going to have to develop demand in that account. We're going to have to develop the initiative or the buying process for the guys at Outreach. And when you're doing that, it's a different set of goals and different set of metrics, because the process is different. And this is going back to what we were talking about earlier, and we'll continue to talk about it here in a little bit. But whatever your outbound approach, the metrics you're tracking need to fit on the role or the salespeople who are a part of that. So if you've got inbound SDRs or inbound inside salespeople, like you're saying, they're going to have a certain set of metrics, and they should be responsible to them. Some they're going to be able to have 100% control over. How many calls do they make? How many emails did they send? Then there's a whole series of metrics that, we'll talk about just, outbound, or excuse me, account-based sales. It's hard to go break into an account, even if you know that they're a perfect fit based on all this intelligence that you've gathered. So I think you have to get into more of a qualitative metric approach and start celebrating and recognizing people for the different type of success that comes from that. So that may be, looking at metrics just from activity and outcomes around those specific targeted accounts, saying, look, we're going to have a specific process running where we're going to do a goal of doing 15 touches with these accounts per rep on a daily basis. We hope that every month we convert X number of them into opportunities, and if those opportunities, we're going to have a target to close them at X% close rate,
Mhm.
and then we're going to measure ourselves against that. So I think you have to start with some expectations. You have to put in a given of what you expect those numbers to be. And then now you're competing with the Fitbit, right? Now you're competing against those targets, and you can hold yourself not only accountable to, are we doing a good job of going after these, but also on the flip side, as great sales leaders and Mark Koskelo at Outreach and the folks there do a great job of this, you can build a really fun, celebratory, competitive culture around it, which I think makes it all the more powerful versus maybe what's comfortable. Like, it's comfortable to work what comes in or to work the deals that are easy. It's uncomfortable to work the deals that are hard or that are on the target list from the CEO of
Mhm.
the board or whatever. And I think you really do have to use visibility, recognition, competition in a healthy way to drive that type of behavior. And then, over time, you're gonna dial in not only on the target conversion rates of those folks, but you can probably exceed them if you're very focused.
So what are we looking at here? It looks like this is a dashboard that someone would use to track those types of metrics. Is this
Yeah,
like
you're
part of this competitive landscape here?
yeah, you're looking at an Ambition user dashboard, and I don't know Robert, but he looks like he's doing great work. He's part of a phone assassin challenge I see up on the top right, which is awesome. But yeah, I mean, he's got a series of daily activities, and this is really what I was describing right there. You know, you look at the bars, um, and those kind of metrics are going to be tied into or customized based on what the sales process looks like. But
Mhm.
for Robert here, he has a specific target of how many apps he's sending out. Let's call that applications. He's got a target of how many outbound calls he's making, how many emails sent. Those are the things he can control.
Mhm.
This is a screenshot, so you're not able to jump around, but not only does he have these activities that he's accountable to hitting, just like his steps or his calories or whatever, um, but he also has objectives in that next tab of monthly objectives, and he has metrics. So that's where you get into the nuance of, not only Brian the rep, but Brian has these things he can control and actively go do on a day-to-day basis to jump into these targeted accounts. Here's how well he's converting at that. And then you go look at, your metrics there, and you can say, is he on par with the average for our group? Is he exceeding it? If he's exceeding it, the first thing I want to do as a sales leader after I go high five him in front of everyone is I want to say, what are you doing that's making you so
Mhm.
effective? Is it that you're, Andrew, like you described, are you having a hot streak, or are you doing a process that we can go repeat, so I can make sure everyone else is having the success you're having? But the first step is, in this case, Robert, he's got to go get all of those bars, ideally to green on a daily basis. And that's kind of, that should be almost his checklist as a rep
Yeah.
to effectively go run through that process.
I think the fact that you can customize this is what's really cool. And as we sort of move on to the next section, we'll see how valuable that is. Because a lot of these things might be more process oriented. Like these are already process oriented things, but
Mhm.
something like a call, right, or an email, those are pretty standard things. But being able to, let's say, okay, I want to track how many applications get sent out or how many texts we're sending.
Yep.
Right? These are things that you can adjust your process and then get metrics on that. Maybe Robert just sends a ton of text messages and becomes the best salesperson in the office. Um, Maybe this tells you that texts are an incredibly valuable part of your process that you didn't know before this.